Hello, my sewing friends. This is Friday Sews. And here's my mom.
Hello.
I'm Jen, and this is not my sewing room. This is my mom and dad's back porch. And I have my mom here who taught me to sew, so I thought we would do a Get to Know Friday Sews Jen's Mom edition. So I have some questions that I'm going to ask her about what it was like to sew when she learned how to sew and then when she was teaching me. So let's start off with, how long have you been sewing?
Oh, since I was 12, 13, had a very slow start, but that was my very first introduction to sewing. I took a class at Singer Sewing Center in my hometown, and I won a pair of scissors.
Wow. Wow. Was it these? No, I know it wasn't. Do you remember ever using those? Electric scissors from Sears.
No.
No?
They were mine, I think, and it was supposed to be the next big thing. And either they didn't work well, I don't remember.
Well, they're used in industrial sewing, I think, like in the garment industry, but I'm sure they were thinking it would probably be a cool thing to bring to the home sewing. Anyway, so you learned and you won a pair of scissors, probably somewhat like these, which I was told repeatedly, do not use those scissors, as were my siblings.
Yes, because they were to be used for cloth and sewing, and they needed to be where I could find them.
Guilty. Yeah. I'm always like, don't you touch my scissors.
Yes.
These are gingers, and they are really nice. Okay, so that's how you learned to sew, or when you started sewing. Who taught you? Well, you said you took this class.
Yeah, and that's a vague memory, but I know that my mother was a single mom who worked in a factory for a living, and she raised 3 children with no help from her ex-husband. So I don't know how in the world she managed to give me piano lessons and a session of sewing lessons at Singer's, but she did. But when I started, the first thing I can remember is a skirt that I've talked about that had a waistband and probably not a zipper, but I don't remember it. But then I think, of course, it would have had to have a zipper.
I was going to say, you had to get in and out of it somehow.
Yeah. And my aunt lived across the street from us, and she helped me, and I got that skirt made. And other than that, it kind of came away from my focus until after I was married and had children.
Well, what kind of sewing machine did you make that skirt on?
It would have had to be my aunt's, and it was, I don't remember anything about it except it was electric. It wasn't a treadle.
It wasn't a treadle.
Yeah.
Very fancy.
Oh, well,
That would have been probably the late 1940s. Well, maybe not late, early to mid.
Well, I would say late 40s to 1950. Because the street that we moved to, where she lived across, we moved into that house in 1950. So it was 51, boy.
I know.
Long history.
A long time ago. Now, you took a class. Well, when you came back to it after, being 12 years old, after you got married, how'd you learn?
My mother-in-law.
My grandma.
Yeah. She was absolutely the best mother-in-law in the world, ever, in all of history.
And now we know who that person was.
Yeah, she was a friend, and she was a teacher and a mentor. She taught me about things like how to do a blind stitch by hem and how to iron a pair of trousers and a shirt. She taught me what to feed a sick child. Definitely not hot dogs.
I think there was a time when, yeah.
Anyway, she was a marvelous teacher and very patient. Just one of those people who had that talent of talking to you and showing you and helping you to achieve what you were doing. She was just really good.
Now, she had a black singer, correct?
Yes. I don't even know that it was a zigzag.
No, I don't think it was, if I remember correctly, because that's the one I learned on too, because you taught me. So, well, let me ask you this. What kind of things, what was the fashion when you were in high school, which would have been, you graduated high school in 1956.
The fashion when I was in high school. Was there such a word as fashion? No,
Small town.
The fashion icons were, these may not be completely accurate as to the time, but Audrey Hepburn, Doris Day. Anyway, the fashions that we wore, we all had what we call a straight skirt, which now you would probably call a pencil skirt. We never wore any kind of pants to school, and certainly not blue jeans or shorts. Oh no! But we always had on a skirt. If you look at the class pictures that were taken outside, all of the girls had on a blouse and a skirt, mid-length, shin length.
We would call that a midi today, I think.
Oh, well, that's
like mid-calf.
Yes.
Yes.
Saddle Oxfords, either a little, and of course this is all costume, but a little string of pearls or a little rose at the collar of the blouse. We didn't wear earrings.
Well, the reason I ask is because I'm, of course, doing the Instagram challenge called Sew Your Birthday. And I found this pattern from 1959, which was the year I was born. And when I asked you what you wore in 1959, what did you say? You said, well, maternity clothes for the first half of the year. I'm not sure what I expected her to say, but yeah, oh, duh. Yeah, I was born in June.
For 6 months. Yeah.
I was born in June, so yeah.
That was early marriage, which means we had no money. We called our furniture early orange crate.
We would call that early goodwill.
Yeah. So the clothing would have been whatever I was wearing at the time of our marriage, because I had been a working single girl.
So I remember a lot of blouses and maybe pedal pushers or what we would call capri pants.
Yeah, those were very popular.
Sort of thing. And in the winter, you probably had sweaters.
Sweater, long sleeve, maybe a turtleneck, but maybe just a what do they call that collar?
Crew neck. Well, a turtleneck.
Yeah.
And then,
But yeah, a lot of sweaters. Never wore a t-shirt. What else?
Never wore jeans, really, did you?
No, not much. And now that's my uniform.
Yeah.
I keep saying, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Well,
hard to remember in detail.
Yeah. Okay, so you've talked before about the thing that you were most proud of, the thing that you sewed that you were most proud of.
That probably, again, my memory is not clear back to 70 years ago. But the thing I remember most is the suit that I made. I attended the vocational school as an adult and took a class in tailoring. And I made a pink wool suit, which I wore when I married Dave, who is my second husband. I was a widow, and so we got married, and I wore that suit.
Mm. And you said it wasn't perfect, but it called for a lot of... I remember at the time, I thought, man, that's complicated. And why is she doing that?
I asked Jen a little while ago, what was that called that I did? And you said it was pad stitching or padding stitch. But it was an interface for the label of the suit, the lapel. It's my birthday.
See where I
today.
get it now.
The lapel of the suit had to have interfacing, and then it had to be reinforced so that it wouldn't be floppy.
Didn't it have to have some kind of... It wasn't regular interfacing. It was like a tweedy looking, gray and tan kind of looking stuff.
I think so. And it was a long stitch, about that long. Yeah. And you just, over and over again on this section of lapel. And I didn't do that well because you're not supposed to be able to see that there are any stitches in the lapel.
Well, they would have been underneath, wouldn't they? Well, yeah, because you didn't put... Anyway, yeah. It was beautiful. She looked beautiful. It was like a baby pink, very pale. It's really pretty. Yeah. Let's see. We always went... I'm going down these Get to Know Friday Sews questions. The machines that you've had over the years.
Oh. I read in a very old journal of mine not too long ago about the time that your dad bought me a sewing machine for my birthday. Oh, it was a Singer, and we went into debt for it because it cost $89.
Oh my gosh.
That was the first sewing machine that I owned, I think. And I had that Singer until I made your wedding gown in 1986. And right after that, I was thinking I would like to have a nicer sewing machine.
You think?
I made this. It was a beautiful gown.
It really was.
And
It really was.
I was dumbfounded when Jenny said that she was getting married, which of course we knew. And she said, well, you're going to make my wedding gown, aren't you? Oh, okay.
Trust me, I've gotten paid back. I will get paid back some more.
It was just a process. And it's like what is it, that little animal that's going to eat an elephant? One little bite at a time. That's the way I approached that pattern. I just couldn't think that I could do the whole thing and make it look like the picture. So I just followed the pattern, and it was step one, do this, okay. Now I can do step two, and so on.
Well, so many people these days talk about indie patterns being so much easier to understand and simpler to sew. And I'm a big for, McCall's Simplicity, Vogue, Butterick. I'm a huge fan of that because that's what I learned. But when you talk about this process with my wedding gown, it sounds like it wasn't that hard to take it step by step by step. But probably a lot of that was you already knew how to sew.
Well, true. I wouldn't have, if I had been a novice, I would never have tackled that. And that was the high point of my sewing career, if you can call it that.
You think that was more complicated than that suit you made? Tailoring
it was more important.
Well,
because Jenny lived in another city, probably 3 hours away. And so one of our good memories is having lunch in a restaurant that was halfway between.
Yeah, my parents were meeting my husband's parents. So we met kind of all in a central place.
And I brought the bodice of the gown with me, and we went into the ladies' room.
Oh no, I think you had the skirt there.
Or is that
too.
what it was?
I think you had the skirt attached. Yeah.
Anyway, we went into the ladies' room and had a fitting.
Wasn't there a lady that came in and was? I can't remember if she was impressed or horrified.
Oh, she was impressed.
Oh, is that your wedding gown? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Gosh. Yeah, that is a good memory. That was a beautiful gown. And we had a lot of fun with that, figuring out how to get the lace to match the satin because it was like an off-white.
Mm-hmm. It was an ivory satin.
Mm-hmm.
And we stood in the kitchen and put the lace was about this thick.
Yeah, it was the Lonson lace, so yeah.
And we put it through, was it tea or coffee?
I think we did coffee first, and it didn't look right.
So then we did tea.
Or maybe we did tea, and it was too pink, I think, and then we did the coffee.
Okay.
And that worked.
Yeah, but that was fun. I mean, we stood there at the kitchen sink and had this little bowl with the beverage in it, and one of us would pull and the others feed, It was a lot of lace.
It was a lot of lace, yeah. But yeah, and then I said, I want these big puffy sleeves, and here's how I want them to look. And she's like, okay. I know. She was thinking, how in the world are we going to accomplish that?
Didn't we find a pattern with that sleeve on it, and that's what I used?
Kind of.
Because I'm not much of an improvising sewer. I want directions.
Yeah. It had a puffy sleeve, but it had a piece of lace here, and the sleeve was gathered into that medallion kind of piece of lace. Mm-hmm. And that's what we had to figure out. And I think we did. I don't know how we did it, but yeah. I remember being there for part of that. So yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm glad to know that, it can be done. For all of the talk about how independent patterns have such simple instructions, easy to follow. That's true if you're starting out. But it can get tedious. It gets tedious for me. Mm. And for you to have, at that point, you hadn't been sewing continuously for a while.
Yes, it had been a while.
Yeah.
But what I always found helpful in the pattern directions was that there was always a picture there of how that seam or that fold or the pinning or whatever should look like. So not only did I have the directions, I also had a visual, mm-hmm. and that was helpful. Yeah.
These days they've got photographs, they have Facebook support groups. I mean, my goodness, if you can't learn to sew with all the stuff they've got, you shouldn't even be trying. So, okay, your machine that you bought after you made my gown.
Yes, and I still have that machine. This was in 1986. I bought a Bernina.
Very fancy.
Oh, it's still a good machine. After all these years,
it is.
I have taken it a few times and had it either cleaned or reconditioned.
Just serviced.
Yes. Yeah. But it's not the those computerized machines only confuse me. Because I'm not a techie.
Well, my computerized machine confuses me. My first one it's not intuitive, and it was made by a German company, so it's like everything's in German. You have to make it switch to English. It's complicated. So, yeah, but for a mechanical machine, that is, when I look and you talk to people who know machines, they will say that is one of the best.
Really?
Yes. Very good quality.
You're a fan of the FAF.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had a FAF. She bought me a FAF when I was, 20.
Yeah.
It was a Christmas gift one year. And then she bought herself a Bernina. And I thought, you traitor! Why did you buy a FAF? But I think she was probably thinking the same thing about me. Well, you should have bought a Bernina. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not really, because it's your skill as a seamstress that has been your most valuable thing. It's not really the machine. It's what you do with it.
Yeah, it really is what, that makes the sewer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just, what do they say, to be clear, I don't sew now. It's too hard now.
Yeah.
You know, my back hurts now, and I get tired, and in the evening I don't see the little things as well as I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy that you do. I gain the benefit of that.
Yeah, she kind of does. Yeah. We always shopped in the store. There was no online shopping.
Oh, no.
And so,
Catalog, maybe.
not for fabric, though.
No,
I mean,
not
you could
for
buy a
fabric.
sewing machine and, you know, accessories and things like that. But those were some of my best memories of my childhood or they're very fond memories, to go to the fabric store and sit and go through those catalogs. Oh my gosh, I could have sat for hours.
We did.
Yeah, we kind of did. I always made her pick out the flannel for my nightgowns. I'd say, make me a nightgown. And she'd say, well, you know, you pick out the fabric. No. Because she always picked the best ones. They were the prettiest.
Oh, all I remember is red.
Yeah, well, I remember flowers. Yeah, let's move on to this pattern. This pattern was a challenge for you. This is Simplicity 8767. It is the first thing that I ever made. And you said it was a 4-H project. And that made me go, really? I didn't realize that.
It was not the first project you ever made. Your first was the apron.
The apron that I still have, yeah.
And I think you may have made a little top in the meantime. But this was, how old were you there?
Well,
10, 11?
This was 1970. So I would have been 11.
Yeah. And she wanted to do this pattern for her 4-H project. And I was the leader of the 4-H group. And so I said, okay, you know, if you think you can do it, we'll do it. And these circle pockets, I looked at that and I thought, there's no way this little kid is going to do these circles. And I think, didn't I have you practice on a piece of paper?
Oh, I have no idea.
I drew a circle, and then you had to, with no thread in the machine, of course, follow that line around the circle. But when it got to the actual fabric and matching the fabric to the opening and making a circular seam, I wanted so much to let me. And you said, Mom, I can do it.
I would have just said, just let me help you. Yeah, I never would have had the patience that you had.
I stood there with my hands like this and watched her. And I don't know if I breathed.
Oh my goodness.
But
I did it.
You did it, and you got a good grade on it as a 4-H project.
This was, the pocket she's talking about was the kind where you sew it in and then you clip and you turn it inside out and then you sew the back to it. So it was a bit of it's not a beginner project.
Right.
Not really.
Right.
But yeah. Okay, and what about this one? Simplicity 8716, and this is from 1970. You made this for me, and I'm pretty sure it was a white piqué. Although I don't think you remember this one.
I don't remember
do you?
that one.
Yeah, this is this one. I do.
Well, she was adorable in it.
Oh, yeah, we're going to go with that. And this one, Simplicity 8425.
I do remember that.
Pretty sure I was in the 6th grade. This was 1969. So that would have been the 5th grade.
You were 10.
Yeah. And it's, I have a picture of me in this. You can hardly see, but it was navy blue. And it had big primary colored circles on it, I think, as I recall.
I don't remember it clearly, but you said I made it. So, okay, yes, I made that.
And you remember this one?
Yes, I do remember that one.
This is Simplicity 8532. It is a skater outfit. For me, it was a majorette costume. Yeah, but then I became a majorette in junior high school, and I needed an outfit. And so this one was red, wore a long-sleeved collared shirt under it. It was very basic.
Yeah, but it was really, a good outfit.
Yeah. A couple other little things. This is a pincushion.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the kinds of pin cushions that we have now, even, we have magnetic ones. You can't get past a tomato pin cushion. This is the pin cushion,
Absolutely.
right? Yes.
This is a small one. They also made them in bigger sizes. Perfect.
Yeah, and this
This
little...
is the sharpener.
Yes, see?
Sharpen your needle.
Yes. And this is a tape measure. Now, this is not like what we have now, because ours are
Really?
plastic. No, ours are plastic. This is actual cloth. Yeah, I got these out of your sewing room.
I know, but you'll notice that the little metal ends
Oh, yeah.
are missing. That's
Well,
okay.
how old is this thing?
Oh,
I mean,
heaven
it's
knows.
fraying. Yeah. And this, I hate this stuff. But you know what? This is how I learned. You were a huge fan of this. This is tracing paper, where you take the little wheel and you mark your fabric. I hated this stuff.
I do too, but what else can you do?
Well, chalk. Yeah, nowadays we have friction pens that go away with heat. They look kind of like this. And, you can iron right over them. And,
Imagine that.
yeah, the thing is, you mark your dart and then you go to iron it to get it crisp, and there go your markings.
Huh.
I wasn't kidding. I really hate this stuff. So what was your favorite sewing task? The favorite thing that you like to do when you sewed?
The thing I still hate the most is sewing on a button. I can never hit the hole.
Oh, you mean on the machine?
No,
Or
I mean
just by hand?
Yeah.
I hate hand sewing.
My favorite task on a machine. Well, I know that I always appreciated the seam width markers on the machine because I never had to guess or eyeball. You just follow that line and it comes out the way it should.
Did you like pressing, top stitching, interfacing, hand stitching? I'm trying to think of all the other things, people like to do. Cutting it out.
Oh, no, not cutting it out. Chore.
Fitting. Oh, no.
My favorite task was seeing how it came out and if it came out the way I wanted it to. That's not really a task, but...
Your favorite part of it. Yeah.
And usually, I was successful at that point in life when I sewed a lot. I'd say I was successful about 90% of the time. In later years, it became less and less, and I finally thought, I'll just go to the store.
Yeah.
I'm tired of making this thing and it doesn't fit, or I chose the wrong fabric, or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we do get to that point. What do you think is your strongest skill that you ever had when you were sewing? What was the thing you were the best at?
Oh my, never thought of that.
What was easy to do? What is the thing that you would look at the instructions and go, oh, okay, yeah, no problem?
I think doing gathering was always easy because it was easy to slide the fabric along the length of thread, and that was fairly easy. Doing a sleeve became fairly easy.
Boy, that's interesting. That's a surprise. To set in a sleeve? Wow.
Because it was match the notches, and you'd have a little bit of gathering in there, but nothing that really looked like gathering. And you just make it fit, and then sew it in there, and then sew it again, to give it a double strength, and clip it.
Yeah. Wow. You've never owned a serger, have you?
No. You loaned me one at one time, and it absolutely confounded me. It was great because it was all set up and threaded when you gave it to me, and I used it, and I thought, man, this is super highway here. But then I had to put in a different color thread or something, and I did it wrong, and I couldn't figure it out.
Oh my gosh, that's so hard. In the sewing industry, the hardest thing to do, I think, is thread your overlocker, thread your serger. It's impossible. I have one that does it for me. It's an air threader, and I bought it because it's an air threader. Okay, what is your best advice to someone who is either thinking about sewing or wants to give up? What would your advice be?
Thinking about sewing is know your limitations. Don't go big on the first project. Don't think, I'm going to sew, I think I'll make a dress. Don't do that. Start with an apron or a very simple top, and get advice from someone about fabric, or trust the fabric suggestions on the pattern envelope.
Yeah, that's always a good idea.
Yes, they won't steer you wrong. So that's first advice. Now, somebody who wants to quit.
Yeah, they're just tired of making mistakes and not having things turn out. What would your advice be?
Have a mentor would be very helpful. Have someone who can come alongside you, who is interested in you and interested in your project. Someone who thinks, I can show you how to do that, and not come in and overpower you, but just come alongside.
Not do it for you.
Now, these days, I suppose you would say instructional online videos.
Oh, yeah, YouTube. YouTube it. We YouTube everything, don't
Yeah. Well, I don't.
we? Well, no. I mean,
Yeah, and that's if you are thinking you should quit, but you don't really want to. If you're absolutely over it, as I didn't suddenly make a decision to not sew, but it just, my life changed. My children grew up and left, and grandchildren, you sewed for your daughters, and it just faded out. So if that happens, be happy.
yeah, it's okay. It's okay if that happens.
Yes.
And you passed it along to me, so I think in some ways you can probably enjoy it still through me.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Because we can be very honest with each other.
we are too, and it's so helpful.
Jen made, as a gift for me, a nightgown and a robe, and I told her how I wanted it to be, the neckline and the length and all of that. And so she sewed it, brought it to me. She lives in another state than I do. And brought it home. I tried it on, and I tried so hard to love it. I really did.
She really did.
But then she kept asking me, and I had to say, well, it's a little bit too big. It's too big here, and it's too big here, and it's this, that, and the other.
And you didn't like the robe because you said it made you look like an old bag lady.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, and it was just the style of the robe. Yeah, and that was fine. I was really glad to hear those things because I thought, well, I don't want to make you something that you're just never going to like, ever wear, or give away. I want it to be something that's, you like, that you want to wear.
I have a vest. When vests were popular.
Oh, I know which one you're going to say. I know what she's talking about.
The plaid.
It was patchwork.
Yes. And the stitching has become loose, and I refuse to dispose of that vest because it has Jenny's Originals in the label.
Yeah.
And I will not wear it again. It probably doesn't fit me anymore.
Oh, I don't know.
But I would not take anything for that vest.
Yeah. Well, so we fixed the nightgown, and I just made you a new robe.
She did.
Yeah, piece of cake. Well, not a piece of cake, because I gave her the option of a new pattern and one from 1956. And which one do you think she chose? 1956. Yeah, but I learned a couple of things about vintage patterns and broke the rules and didn't really carry the guilt of breaking those rules. I just thought, oh, come on, you people didn't know what you were doing back then with trying to, anyway. Yeah, that's another conversation for another day.
And I wore the nightgown last night very comfortably, and the robe is gorgeous. It fits like a T. It's so nice. It's so pretty, but it's very warm, so it's hanging in the closet until wintertime.
Which isn't far off.
No, few months.
Both of these are double brushed polys from Joann's. So people say that a lot. You know, if you make a t-shirt in hot weather, you don't want to wear that fabric because it's so warm. It's so nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here for Friday Sews.
Oh, well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I came up for her birthday, which is today. Happy birthday to you. So, what a pleasure.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for teaching me to sew. It's now my passion. I mean, I think sometimes you teach a child something and they just take it and run with it. Yeah.
And that's what happened.
My pleasure. It is entirely my pleasure. So,
Sure.
okay.
Love you.
Love you too. All right.
Bye.
Bye.